Hi, I'm Dr. Jennifer Taylor. I am a board-certified family medicine physician and wound care specialist. But I also teach caregivers how to take care of their loved ones' wounds at home. And I make all natural whipped body products that moisturize and heal the skin. My journey to becoming a physician was certainly non-traditional. I attended Northwestern University like you as an undergrad and quickly got knocked on my behind trying to follow the usual path of taking general chemistry and calculus and all those other crazy classes that I placed into, instead of listening to the advice of the late great Dr. Ulysses Duke Jenkins, who told me in the first place, regardless of what you place in, don't take all those crazy classes. He said, do this, this, and this. I did the opposite and found out the hard way that I should have followed his advice. Because my classmates who did started out the gate strong. The fools like me who listened to their ego and whatever, just being hard-headed, we struggled. And so I, for the first time in my life, did not have like all A's or A's and a couple of B's. When I say I got knocked on my butt, I mean I got knocked on my butt. I think the best grade I got the first quarter was probably, I think maybe I got 1 B, but it was a very rude awakening, and it pretty much destroyed my self-esteem, like, cause I didn't realize until that time how much my identity was tied up into the fact that I was smart and that I was gonna be a doctor. One semester at Northwestern, I was like, maybe not. So I spent the next 3 years of undergrad making up for the damage that I did as a freshman. So first word of advice, listen to wise counsel. And don't think you know it all. Listen to your parents. Take it slow. You don't have to do things the traditional way if that way doesn't work for you. So I actually had given up on being pre-med, and again, Duke just wouldn't leave me alone. He came at me from this way and that way. These Northwestern alums who just happen to be doctors would just happen to pop into his office when he asked me to stop by. And so he had like the full court press. He was campaigning and it worked. So like, I think it was the end of freshman year or sometime in my sophomore year, I was like, look, dude, I'm gonna try this one more time. If it doesn't work, you gotta leave me alone. And so he said, okay, and obviously the rest is history. So one of the things that I learned in listening to Duke and following his advice was that I didn't need to even take all my pre-med coursework at Northwestern, which I didn't. I ended up taking a year's worth of organic chemistry compressed into 8 weeks at North Park University, and I did physics at Chicago State. I did my science courses wherever I could get them while volunteering over the summers through this program called CHAMPS, which is unfortunately no longer in existence. So, and then my senior year of college, I decided that would be a good time to get pregnant. So I was like 7 months pregnant when I graduated from Northwestern, and I like to say I waddled across the stage, which is actually quite true. And so I went home to my mom's house, had my baby over that summer, and got a job as a social worker, actually. And I continued taking pre-med courses because I was determined, baby or not, I was still going. And I did. It wasn't easy, and I don't recommend it. But as it turns out, in hindsight, it probably was a good thing, because I might not even have kids if I hadn't had her off schedule, you know, unplanned, blah, blah, blah. But so I ended up getting into UIC and intended to be here in Chicago. And then I remember getting that letter like, what is this UPR track? And so I found out I had to go to Urbana instead of being in Chicago. I was like, what is this? I'm a city girl. Urbana, Peoria, Rockford, what is this? So it turns out it was probably the best thing for me. And again, having learned my lesson as an undergrad, I split that first year of medical school across 2 years. It was a program called the decompression program, and they probably still offer it. And so when I started, my daughter just turned 3 a few days before I moved down to Champaign. Just me and her, didn't know a soul, just ready to do this thing. And I attribute that to the foolishness of youth. Just making all kinds of dumb moves, but my determination was enough. My determination and my faith in God's grace was enough to get me through. So again, I went down there to UIC in Champaign and was there for 5 years before I went to Cleveland University Hospital's Case Medical Center, Western University in obstetrics and gynecology. But I just realized I left out another key point of a non-traditional path, and that is I did not match for residency. I had to scramble into a position, and fortunately I found a position in a fantastic program. So again, me and my baby, who's at that time now like 8, you know, we traipsed to Ohio, where I have family to help support me, you know, because I had finally gotten a little bit of common sense along the way and learned you gotta kind of have things in place. You need a little bit of support. You kind of need to plan this and think it through a little bit. So it's still though, so my first year, intern year, oh God, it was awful. It was an awful experience. But that was before the 80-hour work week came into existence. So I was working easily 110 hours a week. My daughter was in Youngstown, like an hour away, with my aunt and uncle, who are more like a second set of parents for me. And so I would see her on the weekends, and that was traumatic for her and for me being apart. I developed depression, which I didn't acknowledge and therefore did not get treated. And there's just so many things I know now as an attending that I really wish I had known then. But again, through the grace of God and the kindness of strangers, I made it through. So I struggled all the way through residency. I absolutely love delivering babies, but the surgery part, not so much. And I kept thinking, oh, it's just because you're an intern. When you get to be further in the program and you know more, you're going to develop that same love and passion that the attendings have. Because I remember, like, I would hear attendings and senior residents talking about how they had to dissect this plane and how, you know, just going into all this detail about the surgeries and just being all excited about it. And I never felt that excitement. In fact, I was scared shitless. Just being frank, I was. It was incredibly painful. And I remember some friends in residency telling me, you know, Jennifer, we don't understand why you're an OB resident, because you do not fit here. You're far too nice, number one, to be an OB resident. You don't seem happy. And so I pushed that out of my head because I've come this far. I can't quit now. And it got to a point where I really had no choice. I wasn't doing well, and I was either going to have to remediate and extend my stay there, and in that environment that was not good for me, or I could just bite the bullet and do something else. And I remembered those friends telling me, "You really don't seem to belong here." And so I'm like, you know what, it's time for me to go. So in the 4th year of a 4-year program, I left. The 4th year, the chief year, is when I left, because it wasn't working. I was miserable. My daughter was miserable. I wasn't doing well. It was just, that was like by far one of the hardest, most painful times of my life. I did finally acknowledge the depression at that time and start getting that treated. So that's some good that came out of it. But I also remembered there was this guy who I thought at the time was a resident, because I would see him on the floor. I thought he was a family medicine resident, because I knew he was family medicine, and I would see him sometimes. And I remember I was on my GYN onc rotation. It was, I don't know, it was probably like 3 o'clock in the morning, and he was his usual peppy, bubbly self, and I don't know how it came up, but I was like, "What year are you?" And he was like, "PGY 16 or something like that. And so PGY is postgraduate year. So an intern is PGY 1. And so most residencies are only, 3 to 5 years. So for him to say PGY 16, it took me a second because I was distracted trying to write a progress note. But then I'm like, wait, what? And I looked up, I'm like, "What'd you say?" He was like, and he showed me his badge. This dude was the family medicine residency program director. I could not believe it, because he was so cool. He was so sweet, just always kind, always in a good mood. That blew my mind. So sometime after that, I ended up sharing with him what I was going through in OB, and he was like, "That's all right, don't worry about it. Come on over here with us. We want you over here." And so it was an easy choice. I left OB and I slid into the family medicine program, and because of rules of ACGME, the Graduate Medical Council, you have to do at least 2 years in the program you graduate from. So instead of being ready to graduate, I had to do another year, but it was cool. Another life lesson. Really doesn't matter how much money you're making if you're miserable. So I walked away from it. The job I had reviewing cases had the opportunity to go full time. And so that's what I did. I walked away from clinical medicine, and I learned more about the business side of medicine, the administrative side of medicine, how things get paid for, why things are paid for, what's reimbursed, what's not. So it just opened up my eyes to an area of medicine that I had never considered before. I certainly did not go through all that residency and torture and everything to not practice, but I really needed a break, and so it allowed me to do that and still maintain my lifestyle. So but I knew there was no way I could do that forever, because I'm a people person. I'm not a paper pusher. I'm a people person. So once I relaxed and started living a normal life, developed some hobbies and, things like that. The company that I worked for looked like they were in trouble and like they were gonna fold. So everybody started leaving left and right. And so it just, so happened that a friend of mine there got a call from a recruiter about doing wound care, which is something I never considered. But it was a way to go back to clinical medicine without all the headaches of family medicine. I love family medicine, but there's a lot of things about family medicine that I cannot stand, and that is arguing with patients about why they don't need antibiotics for their viral infections. Arguing with patients about why they don't need narcotic pain medications for their chronic pain. Arguing with patients about why they don't need no shortage of opportunities out there for physicians to do things that they actually enjoy. There's medical writing, there's doing review work for insurers, there's telemedicine, there's all sorts of opportunities. Another thing that's getting more popular right now is going back to private practice, doing something that's called direct patient care. So you can do things in a new way. There's just all sorts of things. Another NU alum, one of my best friends, Dawn, she has a book out there for teenage girls, teaching them about their body, and so she goes to different schools and has different speaking opportunities to talk to young women about their sexuality and about their bodies and things like that. Like the sky is the limit. Like if you stay pigeonholed in traditional medicine thinking it's gonna be like it used to be 30 years ago, that is a recipe for unhappiness. But as long as you are open to pursuing other opportunities, there's so much out there. So medicine has changed, and I maintain not for the better. But as a physician, you have the opportunity to create the life that you want. You just got to be able to think creatively, plan for it, and make the sacrifices for it. And who in medicine isn't familiar with making sacrifices? So yeah, it's definitely possible. One of the reasons why I'm actually happy with medicine is because I have alternate streams of income, alternate things that interest me and keep me happy. And again, one of them is the book that I wrote on wound care. It is designed for people who are at home taking care of their loved ones. It teaches you the basics of wound care, and it helps you to know some of the medicalese that we always speak when you go to the doctor's offices, and it goes over your head. I even have a glossary in the back to explain some of the terms. So this is the Caregiver's Guide to Wound Care. There's more stories on here that young docs might like. A bunch of my friends, like I said, that were in that program with Dr. Dre. This is called The Making of a Medical Mogul. It's all of our stories, and it probably would bless you just to know, because we just think it's one way to do things, and it's not. Both of these books are available on my website, drjennifertaylor.com. And then I have an example of my own personal stash of my body butter. I make whipped body butter, sugar scrubs, and body wash that moisturize and heal the skin. Again, because I have dry skin, and so I made these products with people like me in mind who have eczema or psoriasis or just chronically dry, itchy skin. And so this business is called Mangori by Dr. Jen, and the website is mangoribydrjen.com.